Sir, this contents which have been has already.
So Walter, we are about to start. Okay.
Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay.
So most
you want
distinguished guest speaker of today's session, Dr. Walter King Yanpo, obtained his master's and PhD degree in Sydney University with physical education as his major study. His expertise focuses on sports sociology, comparative education, curriculum development, pedagogical study, and health works in students. Before his work in the University of Macau, he had 10 years work as physical education teacher in primary and secondary schools and about 8 years of working experience in Sport Development Board and Curriculum Development Institute, respectively in Hong Kong, SR from 1995 to 2002. While working in these two institutes, he helped to manage the projects such as Go Sport Program, Fitness Award Scheme for School Children, Curriculum Development of Wushu, and Curriculum Reforms Works of Learning to Learn in Physical Education, Hong Kong. Walter joined the University of Macau in 2003 and served as Assistant Professor in the Faculty of Education. During his work in the university, he was appointed as Program Coordinator of Primary Education and headed the development of new Bachelor Program of Primary Education in 2005. He also was the founder of Master Program in Physical Education and Sports Studies in Faculty of Education in the same year. He worked as a secretary for the 16th Biennial Conference of the International Society of Comparative Physical Education and Sport in 2008 and the 7th National University Sport Climbing Championship in 2009 in the University of Macau. Walter was later elected as the president of the International Society of Comparative Physical Education and Sport from 2008 to 2016 and vice president in the education of International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education, ICSSPE, from 2009 to 2016. He was also appointed as the associate and interim college master of Choi Kai Yao College from September 2016 to 2019 in the University of Macau. Walter is currently working as an assistant professor in the Faculty of Education. His major teaching covers topics in teaching of physical education, games learning, sport education, exercise psychology, and leisure studies. He actively involves in various developmental projects in the areas of pedagogical study in physical education, development of quality program in physical education, fitness and health development of students, academic programs in university and sports education. He has publication of books, social perspectives in physical education, foundation and experiences in Chinese soil in 2009, and translated works of a book of current issues in contemporary comparative physical education sport in 2013. In this few years of publication, most of his work focuses on publication in the study of quality physical education, health development in students, and issues in exercise psychology. He also serves as the principal investigator in the research project on quality physical education, active kid movement, intervention physical activities, and the students' life development in residential college. He also keeps in charge of the health and fitness development project for Macau primary school students with the project name as Living in Motion 123 and training program for school leisure activity specialists in Macau. On behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Halo India, Lakshmibai National College of Physical Education, principal of all the members over here, a warm welcome to Walter Ho to this program.
Thank you. All right.
Also welcome Madam Kluka to the session. I welcome Dr. Rosa to the session. I also welcome our principal to the session, all the members of the participants and invited guests. A warm welcome to one and all to this physical education community coaching program. Walter Ho, for your session, please.
Okay, thank you. I have prepared a PowerPoint that I would like to follow so that all the audience will be easy to understand what I'm going to speak to tonight. Okay, so when I have the chance to speak with Professor Usa, and then I talked to her that I'm expecting to share something concerning about the gaps of actual development in physical education and also the perceptual differences by PE professional. This is actually the initial idea that I share with Usa, but in fact, these ideas come from the works on the development of quality education. So before I start about talking about the gaps, This is actually something that I hope that I can talk about. And this, you can see that there are 4 items that I will expect to share tonight with all the people here concerning about the quality physics education development, well response, the international attempt, and also study of global index of QPE. So, well, let's start from the first slide that I prepared for you concerning about quality physics education, the development. I tell what, the movement, in fact, hang on a sec, okay. The movement, in fact, started in 1975 when the Council of Europe formulated a policy for sport for all. And then this policy passed in 1976. And then the UNESCO picked that up. And then in 2079 and 78, and then it transformed into the International Charter of Physical Education Sport. And this charter was later revised in 2015. And this is actually the charter that you can see on web concerning about the International Charter on Physical Education Sport in 1978. And then in 2015, this charter was revised from 11 articles to 12 articles. I have highlighted some of the facts for you to see. And take a look. And then you can see there are a few things that the charter expects to share concerning about the human right, the benefits of sport, the creating strategies, versions, lifelong participations, environmental sustainable environment, research, evidence, evaluations, qualified personnel, accurate on space, a facility for equipment, safety and management of risks, integrity, ethical values, peace, disaster development, and international cooperation. And these are the articles that UNESCO expect to share within the within the charter. So immediately after the charter development in 1978, there were a number of works carry on. So in 2005, okay, there was a meeting, and then after the meeting, it came with the report on quality physical education. In fact, this is actually the official term that we have a work on the development of quality physical education in the world. And then you can see UNESCO keep going on onto a number of events in order to highlight the importance of quality physical education. For example, like in the 2013, in the International Conference for Ministers and Senior Officials. And in 2013, the same year, you have the Declarations of Berlin. And of course, in 2015, they came with the guidelines for policymakers. And of course, as I said just before, the International Charter will be revised in 2015. So here you can see some of the documents that you can actually find easily on web. So this is the 2015 UNESCO developments. And then this is not a single work conducted by the UNESCO. In fact, this is a combination of work by the European Commissions, International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education, International Olympic Committee, and then WHO or UNICEF and something like that. Okay. So if you take a look at these guidelines, and in fact, in page 9, it trying to give the definitions of quality physical education. It said, quality physical education is the planned, progressive, and inclusive learning experiences that forms part of the curriculum in early years, primary and secondary educations. If you take a look at these definitions, in fact, it doesn't tell much about what to do in order to achieve. It doesn't tell much. If you want to learn a little bit more, probably you need to have a closer look at what the other people's work so that you can have a proper understanding. Now, if you want to have a proper understanding about this case, then probably you need to go through a number of works, for example, like done by National Association for Sport and PE, the NASPE, and also the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Well, from 2004, some 2004, and then to 2010, the NASPE and also CDC had a number of works concerning about the development of quality physical education. For example, in NASPE, the national standard developed it in 2004. And then there was another paper developed to highlight the importance, the 10 top importance to support the implementations of this standard. And CDC in 2006 highlighted the work on quality physical education. So this is actually the document used in 2004. So if you take a look on the top, you can see that it talks about the characteristics of quality physical education. It mentions a number of things like the opportunity to learn, meaningful content, appropriate instructions. So if you take a look at these 3 things, then probably you will get a better understanding about how we are going to construct a quality physical education. But of course, this is not enough. And this is that I captured from the content of the policy guidelines for quality physical education in 2015. And then you can see there are a few things that the policy guideline want to highlight. One of that is the inclusive approach, the inclusive understanding for gender equality, disability, and minority groups. And then there is a vision building in order to develop a curriculum flexibility, community partnerships, and then quality assurance, teacher education, facility equipment, and resources. And so this is another one that you can actually find in 2006, okay, by the CDC. In the page 4, the documents actually capture some of the important things that we need to do if you want to develop a high quality physical education. So take a look at all these things and try to match with the International Charter of Physical Education. You'll find that these are what we call the easy to understand elements for us to construct a quality physical education. So from 78 to 2015, you can see that it starts with the human rights issues. 12 articles or 11 articles to protect the provisions of physical education. And then come to 2015, it talks about inclusions, gender issue, quality assurance, curriculum flexibility, partnership, professional training, and supportive aspect. Now, if you take a look at this, then certainly you will understand a little bit better about what is the original idea about the presentations of quality physical education or development of quality physical education. But let's take a look at how the world responds and what's the difficulty in having the quality physical education. And so, well, okay, I think I better put that up first so that will be easy to save the time, okay? So if you take a look at what's the world doing, it will be easy to see that people are not actually directing on the exact thinking of the International Charter or the development. Whether the countries or the city or the city educational authorities are more focusing on what we call the purpose-driven developments to solve some of the things. For example, in Hong Kong, you can see they have a focus in 2002 on helping the student learning to learn. And then in Canada, they have the development of trying to combine the curriculum with health together. And then perhaps this is the only item that I can find in the world that they exactly follow the standard and develop the policy on quality education in 2003 by the Mexican State Board. I think in fact most of the states in US will certainly have the similar developments on quality physical education and following the LASPA and also the CDC recommendations. So there is another change. By focusing on the curriculum, certainly that would be not enough. Most of the countries are trying to focus on what we call the teaching methods. So here you can see some of the way that how the people are trying to address, focusing on the lesson itself, focusing on the student experiences. Teaching game for understanding is one of the marvelous developments. And then if you take a look at Singapore, they have the games concept. And then if you take a look, there is another development on co-curricular activities in Singapore. So these are some of the things that we are trying to do. And then, well, some of the places, probably they can't change much on the teaching method or the curriculum time. And they focus on what we call the external, like physical activities. Macau is one of the case. We cannot probably change much about the curriculum, the timing, everything. But how can we extend the student experiences? So we introduce Active Kid 1, 2, 3 movement. And then in Singapore, they're trying to implement, for example, like the holistic health framework. So if you take a look at this slide trying to help you to understand a little bit about what's happening. For example, like we have the International Charter standing outside, providing the framework. Of course, International Council of Sports Science and PE also have some development like the position statements on PE. And if in the inside, then you can see that there are quite clear development like the QPE guideline for policymakers, standard for QPE, CDC strategies, and IS is a benchmark for PE. So these are some of the things built inside in order to help us to compete the quality peace education developments. Of course, if you take a closer look about what's happening inside, then you can see, for example, like it involves curriculum change, it involves the supportive development of supportive environment, it involves the health promotions, it involves the innovative works, involve the curriculum change, and involve the policy developments. Now, these are all seems to be necessary and important things when we are talking about a quality physical education program. But we are all physical education teachers. We are all common people. We work in the field. Then what are the things that we see in our eyes? For example, like in Singapore, when they have a report by McNanny, they try to ask about the physical education teachers, what would be your will? They find out they find that the limitations come from the staffing issues in China. And they find that the problem coming from the inadequate space and equipment. And then in Taiwan regions, it comes with the concerns on cultural bias and the facility and equipment and resources. For example, like in Pakistan, they have the problem of funding, space, and facility, and even the lack of interest of staff. And then Rosa, she has another investigations. Lack of qualified personnel seems to be the problem in Venezuela. Okay, in Mexico, many schools did not have a physical education teachers. Well, and in some of the principal or the school head, well, they don't believe that this is important for physical education. So what's the reality? In fact, if you take a look at in some of the report, you'll find that times was reduced. Making way for literacy and numeracy development. In some of the places, you think that they are very good in the development, but in fact, they are not. In fact, the Irish National Teachers Organizations made a survey in 2005. And then in this report, it talks a number of things concerning about the inaccuracy, the major problem of insufficiency of facilities and equipments. And then one-third of the country in Europe indicate that they have below average inadequate quality of facility and equipment in the works of physical education. So here comes another survey by UNESCO in 2013. I captured this table for you so that you can see. From the table, you can understand that we understand it is important to have our children to have physical activities, but we do it differently. Okay, in some countries, for example, like in China, it tries to have 105 minutes per week for exercise, but in Hong Kong, it's just 90 minutes. In South Africa, it's just 58 minutes, and then in Mexico, it's just 75 minutes. Well, this is actually some. If you take a look at this map, you can see Europe are quite consistent and unified, about 100 and above. for the minutes of works in physical education, but not in Asia, not in Africa, and not in Latin America. So we understand it's important, but in fact, we do it differently. So as a professionals, as a people like us, what we see in the development of quality physical education, we see the staffing issues. We see the inaccurate duration for physical education lessons. We see the lack of accurate space. We see the lack of funds and facilities. We see the lack of interest in physical education. We see the lack of qualified physical education teachers. These are what we see. Well, we all understand about these things. There are gaps of our understanding of the actual development. Can we learn from the gaps? Can we learn from these perceptual differences from the professional and physical educations? This is actually the purpose that we expect to establish the international works or collaborative studies on quality physical educations in 2010. So this project on study of quality physical education comes with different phases. The first phases is a joint work, is what we call the study of global voices on physical education and school sport. So in the time from 2010 to 2012, we tried to send out questionnaires to collect the different voices of professionals. We understand their voices are important because they are the people working for night in schools, helping us to develop a quality physical education. So the best place for us is to understand how they feel and how they understand about the work of developments in physical education. And so the purpose is to collect the voices on the development, achievement, challenges, and way to understand the concerns of professionals in the improving works of physical education in schools. The findings, we do have a number of findings, and then the finding would be presented in the 2012 International Convention on Science, Education, and Medicine in Sport in Glasgow, when we have the meeting there. So within the in these sharings, in fact, we try to focus on three things. The first questions that we want to find out will be what makes high quality physical education, what makes high quality school sports, and what are the challenges of physical education and school sports, and how do we manage those challenges. So here are some of the highlights that I would like to let you know. For example, like in high quality physical education, it requires time for physical education, time for the lesson, time for the health and active lifestyle development. The things that we need to be and an understanding on the diversified content or curriculum, not one things that we are going to teach, but diversify the content. We need to talk about educational qualities. Of course, we need to include what we call the inclusive PE program. So in this way, there are a number of things that needed to support it. For example, quality PE teachers, they need to have the understanding of lifelong education, knowledge and pedagogical skills, creative master and social role. We need to develop what we call a quality PE facility and equipment, like accurate and good quality, safe resources. And then we need to coordinate the policy from the state government. Of course, the last one is we need quality scientific research works. The second question is, what are the challenges? The challenges come from the teachers itself. Many of them are not certified. We do meet the problem of poor quality and training. We do meet the problem of PE facility. We meet the problem of inadequate budget for policy developments. And then it comes with the result on marginalizations, insufficient support from society, and lack of the inclusions program. How do we manage it? We need to improve our understanding. We need to improve the communication and resources. We need to strengthen the government commitment. We need to equip teachers to manage inclusions. We need to reduce emphasis on elite competitive sport model. And these are the comments from those frontline teachers. When we are talking about quality physics education, that's what they feel, what they understand. So the study on global voices in quality physics education actually collected the different voices from physics education teachers on the perspective and understanding of quality physics education. The research also helped to generate necessary statements that seemed to be essential and relevant to the QPE studies. This is important because it actually formed the second phase's developments. If you want to trace about all this work, there are a number of papers being developed by Horswick, Rosa. Rosa had 2 papers on this perspective. So if you have interest about all this understanding, please go look on all these publications. Then you'll find a lot of interesting elements inside. Now, the first phase's development helped us to generate a lot of voices, and how what we try to group it, scan it, and then based on this, we decided to go for the second phases of development, concerned about the perceptions of quality physics education. Why? When we collected these statements, but we have no idea about how this statement look like. What will be the general understanding? What are the statement that is actually not necessary when we consider about the development of quality physics education? So after the global voices, we actually captured the 65 items out. And these 65 items are actually, it can be covered in different parts of investigations. It actually contains the general perceptions on quality physics education, quality physics education in learning, and support for quality physics educations. So these 65 items actually cover these 3 different parts in investigations. So we send out the questionnaires to people. I tell you what, at that moment when we tried to send out the questionnaire to the professor, it was very hard. No one understands what we are doing. We actually spent almost 1 year time before we can collect 1,669 questionnaires, coming from 11 Asian countries, 7 from Europeans, 5 from Latin American, and 1 from African cities. So based on this, okay, and then we try to understand different things concerning about the QPE developments. And so the first thing is, the first things that we decided to focus on would be the quality physics education learning. And in fact, in 2017, we developed a paper based on some of the items that we collected in this questionnaire survey. So this is the paper developed it. And then we have another 3 papers concerned about the general perception in quality physics education. So these 3 papers are already published concerning about how we feel and understand about quality physics education in different continents, in Europe, in Latin America, and also in Asia. Well, actually, these few papers cover a lot of things. And of course, I cannot share all the ideas. I just highlight a few so that you can understand. Okay, we find from this study, there is a persistent thought on some of the dimensions as important in QPE studies. So in Europe, it seems that these consistent thought cover on these 4 dimensions. In Asia, it goes down to 3. In Latin America, it goes down to 3. And then if you take a look at the overall choices in the 3 continents together, then you find that there is a consistent thought on the development on these 3 items. And so we go to another work and take a look at these 65 items. Are there any way that we can single out or sort out those what we call the no factor loading factors, or factor loadings items? And then so we decided to go for another calculation, and by using and the voices from professionals in Asia, we develop another paper. And then we find that by the factor analysis, and then we take a look at these 65 items, and only 48 items retained it. And there are a number of items are being singled out. And this is the paper that we are now still under reviewing, not yet published. But if it published, then you can see how the people feel and why some of the factors are being singled out. So based on this research, then we find that there are a few dimensions which are quite consistently having a consistent thought in the professionals. And these factors involve 8 dimensions. And these 8 dimensions cover the skill development and bodily awareness, facilities and norms in physical education, quality teacher training of physical education, plans for feasibility and accessibility of physical education, social norms and cultural practice, governmental input for physical education, cognitive skill development, and habit-related behavior in physical activities. So these are the 8 dimensions that we find seems to be consistently developed and also consistently thought by most of the people that should be essential. Okay, now because of the development, it comes to the phase 3, and this is actually the work right now we are doing. It's not yet finished, just the beginning only. So in the phase 3, we come to the study of global index of quality physical education. Well, we have these ideas because, for example, like if we understand these 48 items are essential or criteria or statements, then if I'm going to use it, can we use this as a standard in order to measure about what we understand the development in your country? So this research project is initiated in late 2018, and about a year's time to develop the questionnaires. The items adopted in this research come from the work of following paper. That is the paper I just mentioned to you concerning about how we work out the 48 items. So for this global index of quality physical education, it intends to measure the gaps of perceptual understanding from professionals between the policy and actual differences of development in quality physical education development in schools. So this GIOPE questionnaire consists of 50 items. Probably you ask the questions, why I'm saying 48 and how comes it come to 50 items? Just because in one of the items within the 48 items, it says concerning about compulsory physical education in school. But we understand in most of the places in the world, you have compulsory educations in primary, but not compulsory in junior secondary or senior secondary. So that's the reasons why we have to split this question item into three items to ask you whether the country has or city has compulsory physical education in primary or in junior secondary or in senior high. So that's the reasons why it comes to 50 items in the final GIOPE questionnaires. So when the people open the questionnaires, we ask them questions. To what extent do you perceive that the following items regarding school physical education in your city are being achieved? So we try to learn about your perceptions concerning about the actual differences or actual development when we are implementing this policy. So this is the questionnaire, how it looks like, what we call the printed versions. Well, the project started in 2018. We use about a year time to develop questionnaires. It's not an easy task. And after the development of questionnaires, we decided to send it out, what we call the first trial in 2019, last year. And then it stopped in January 2020 because the COVID-19 virus that most of the cities are being locked down, then we have to stop. So before January 2020, we collected the questionnaire, or have the questionnaires returned from 25 cities in Asia, 2 cities in Europe, 1 city in Africa, and 2 cities in Latin America. So on the right-hand side, you can see the table. And these are the returned questionnaires from different cities. Well, you probably want to know about how it looked like. What would be our research look like? I want to have a look of this PowerPoint. Then certainly you will have a little idea about what we are doing. So these are all the cities on the number of questionnaires that we collected, and then we try to rank it. And this is one of the samples that we did. We try to rank it in according to the economic developments. Then you can see some of the cities are having a higher rank, okay, in the ladder, in the ranking system, and some of the cities are going down. And then I tell you what, most of the cities within the high income economic groups are stated in the bottom. So this is actually by factors analysis, by different dimensions. And as I said to you, in our research, we have 8 different dimensions. And so these are some of the things that we just find out. Okay. Okay. So, well, so here are some of the things. Probably you will ask one of the factors. What is the significance of this research? So, well, I sit down for myself and then I try to think about what are the significance when I'm doing this research work. And then I find these are quite interesting things. This is a science to study professional perceptions in peace education. Our voices are not in vain. Our voices are something that we see, and these are important. If we have a better way in order to study, we can see the science. We can see something from these things out. Our viewpoints reveal the fact that developmental proficiency from government in improving the works of people in schools. We see how the government, the developmental proficiency from government. The index help to give knowledge about the gaps in between the actual practice and perceptual differences of peace education in schools. But right here, I need to add one thing. For those cities who have a high ranking of development, it does not mean that the country has a very good curriculum or development policy. But we understand one thing, probably the government had a very good strategies in order to make the teachers know about what they are going to do. So this is actually an important features concerning about what we call the strategic development of what kind of method that they use in order to help the teachers to understand the development. Is another way one in order to help to make quality peace education development possible. The different dimensions identified in this study help to locate the good strategy in enhancing or deficiency in blocking the works of quality improvement in peace education. You can take a look at these cities. So if I find this is the city on the bottom, then we will probably take a look of different dimensions of why they have the deficiency in these dimensions. And then probably we can understand about the way of improvement. And so this is the last things that I think about. This is actually the first two to make systematic observations of quality peace education through our understanding and through the gaps of developments. So probably you will ask, what are we going to do within this few months' time? Okay, so our team is working on the data coming from the 24 cities in East Asia to form the first paper. So this is the first paper. I put these people out because these are the people who help me to collect all this data. And then these people, I need to fence them. That's why I decided to have their name down. The second paper is that we decided to make use of all the cities that we collected and develop a mini global index of city ranking in the QP development. And this paper will help us to extend the observation and hypothesis establishments in QPE developments. For start from June to November, we want to reopen the collections again. We want to reopen the data collections again. And then that's the reasons why we decided to invite different people all around the world in order to help us to provide us with details concerning about your view on the development of this education in your city. So from July to November, during this period of time, we will try to work with different co-researchers to develop academic papers with focus on individual countries, regions, and also paper to investigate individual factors in QPE developments. We'll wait until November when we stop the data collections. And then I hope that this is actually the table that I hope that you can bring your attentions about what we are now working. So in May 2020, we restart the data collecting works again. We understand from January to May, we meet with problems because many of us cannot go outside. We are being locked down. And then we have to restrict our works from office to our home. So it takes time to resettle. And then in May, I think that this is, for most of us are already settled down. So it would be a good time that we start the data collecting works again. So we will close in June 15, we close the initial stage so that we can focus on the first two papers that I just mentioned. And then from June to November, we will do different individual papers on countries or regions on factor analysis. And in November this year, we close all the data collecting works. And next year, June, I hope that I can have another chance that I can present again. And then probably you will have another fresh looks on our preliminary result of the GIQPE studies. So in 2021 to 2023, we expect the development different academic paper to learn about the strategies of developments, why there are differences, why there are wide gaps in this country, and why there are a little gap for these cities. So in 2024, we expect to revise the tool or the questionnaires and prepare on the second GIQPE study. And in 2025, I expect to have another round of the GIQPE study. And in this way, we can compare, see what's happening within this 5-year development. Are we doing better in order to cater a good quality development for these educations? So I would like to invite your help. Yes, you can help. You can help us to fill up the questionnaire following this link, or please share the link with people who can help. To all the people that you think that they know about this development of these educations, ask them to help us to fill up this online questionnaire and send it to us. We will know about all your feedback from you. Or please think about it. You can serve as a research partner with us in this global index of quality education study and coordinate the data collecting works in the city that you work in. If you can help us, please. For example, like in India, if you decide to help us, please, you probably stay in one of the provinces. Can you think about 2 to 3 or 4 cities in your provinces for this GIQPE research work? If you are thinking about this, please target the number of about 80 questionnaires from each city. Please invite teachers from primary and high school or government officer and university teacher to answer the questionnaires. They do not need to be PE teachers, but they need to know the PE development in the cities or country that they are now working or living in. For example, in some of the places, they don't have enough of PE teachers. So they invite headmaster or the curriculum development officer. They know about these things. And they can also help to finish these questionnaires away. So we expect that you have this kind of distribution for 30 response from primary, 30 response from secondary or high school, and 20 respond from university, professor, teachers, or government officers. Of course, this 80 questionnaire, this number of questionnaire, is just one of the estimations only. If you are able to do more than 85, if you do less than that, 60, that will be still okay. But of course, if the number of returned questionnaire is too little, that would be very difficult to make any significant study or analysis. So after the completion of this questionnaire survey, you can either send it back to us, to Macau for data input, or do it in your place with the specific Excel form that we send from us. So here are some of the people that you can ask for information. Of course, you can direct all your inquiry to me. You can direct the inquiry to my postdoctoral fellows, Dr. Carter Kukuwa, or you can actually send your inquiry to Dushat Ahmed. He is from India, so I think he can probably help me a lot in order to answer different questions. So here are some of the things that we developed in 2015, the quality physics education by the UNESCO. It called for actions. I need your voices. Please help. Before I close my presentations, I would like to use this opportunity to thank Professor Rosa D'Amico of ICSSPE, Professor Bensla Antana of IEP, Professor Maria Dino of IFAFA. This is true. I think when the time that I proposed the project on the side of GIOPE in 2010, they have no idea what it was and how does it look like. But because of their trust, it brings the study of quality physics education away from the policy of the establishment, curriculum arrangement, teaching method, to the science of professional voices. And by learning from the gaps, we excel and form new strategy to develop the work of quality physics education. For me, this is not just a project that I can finish by myself. This is actually a result of collaborative efforts. I can only say thanks to those who help us in the work of QPE. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a wonderful presentation, Walter.
Thank you for that.
It was so nice listening to it. We didn't feel like stopping it. We have a guest with us, Tushar Khandekar. May I just introduce Tushar before we have the questions, who is an Olympian hockey player. He belonged to the place of Jhansi, which belongs to that of the Major Dhyan Chand, the hockey wizard of India. And also his family is full of hockey players. I'd like to introduce Tushar Khandekar. He represented India in London Olympics 2012, in the Senior World Cup 2010 and 2006, Asia Games 2010 bronze medalist and 2006, Commonwealth Games 2010 silver medalist and also 2006, Champions Trophy 2005 and 2004, Asia Cup 2007 gold medal and 2009, Junior World Cup 2005 fourth place, Junior Asia Cup 2004 gold medal, Under 18 Asia Cup 2001 gold medal, Under 16 Asia Cup 2000 gold medal. Some of his achievements as a coach of the Rio Olympics 2016, coach of the Indian team in the Champions Trophy silver medal, coach of the Indian team in Asian Championship Trophy gold medal. Indeed, it's a great honor to have an Olympian with us. A warm welcome to you, Tushar Khandekar. A warm welcome.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
So, sir, with your permission, we'd like to have some questions. We'll come
yeah. Yeah, please.
Dr. Sanjay, for the questions, please.
Yeah. First of all, sir, your session was wonderful. Okay.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
The question is, since we have different country and they are following the different time duration for physical activity, so what will be the suitable time for school? What will be the suitable time duration for a school? For how much time we can provide the physical activity in a school?
I tell you what, this is actually a very difficult question to answer concerning how much time is needed.
Yeah.
For example, like if you take a look at most of the places in Asia, this is common to have 70 minutes to 90 minutes per week in physical education. But you have to take a look of how the school runs. For example, like in Macau, physical education is just part of the opportunities only. We have another program called the school leisure activities. And this program is compulsory. So it means that if you mix this time in physical education and also the time for school leisure activity together, that will be totally different. That will be going up to from 90 minutes to about 140. So this is actually one of the examples that you need to know. This is actually a very hard question to say how much time is needed. But if the country or if the city has no other alternative methods in order to help the student to get active, the only way for you to do is to increase the time in physical education. But if the country has another perspective, there will be different decisions in order to do it. So you take a look of some of the places, for example, like Singapore, and also the Taiwan regions, they run differently. For example, in Singapore, every student need to join what we call academic program, but at the same time, they need to join the co-curricular programs. This something look like the extracurricular activities. So if you match them two things together, they have the formal learning, they have the time for physical activities. So that would be completely different. The timing for active learning, for exercise would be, for example, like extended from, for example, like 70 minutes to 110, 120. So that's the reasons why we cannot, for me, if you ask me, I do not agree with the UNESCO report in 2013, because you have to take a look of how the school or the country incorporate different strategies of development. You cannot say, hey, this country has just 15 minutes for physical activities. You need to know about how the school runs, how the school authority runs, how the policy runs. If not so, it would be very difficult. Only if the country is in somewhat problem that they just have this and do not have the other. And so if this is the case, that has problem. For example, like in Australia, I was there for a long time, they understand. They don't have a lot of time in physical education, but they have a very good, what we call a weekend sport programs. So they are doing exercise in the weekend time. So if you put them things together, so that's completely different. And that's why they have a lot of emphasis on in classroom, trying to develop what we call a fun program, a program that helps you to develop a collective thinking, literacy understanding, but at the same time, you will be given chances to do exercise during the weekend time. So put them together, there will be a complete story. So I would say I can't give you an exact answer on how much time that will be needed. You need to take a look of what's the policy developed in the city.
Yeah, that's very right answer. Yeah. Over to Dr. Usha Snell.
Walter, could you just explain on Living in Motion 1, 2, 3 project? What is it about?
This is actually well, if I have time, I can do another sharing on this project. Okay, this is actually a project established in 2008, concerning about how to help the Macau student and all from primary to secondary to be active. So it involved a number of development. First thing is the collective development, because we understand when the student they need to be literacy enough. So we need to help them to have collective understanding. But at the same time, we need to help them to understand. That is what we call the reviewing process. And the third thing is we need to empower the school to develop the culture. And so that's the reasons why we need to develop what we call a supporting system for the school to record, to see what they have done. So in this case, if I'm knowing about the students' work, and then I'm giving them the school report on the percentile, the score on their BMI, on their physical, on the standing long jump, but at the same time, that I ask them to make improvement, then they need to go full-time, working on different intervention activities, place it back to the supporting system so that they will know how to develop. So we find that these systems works very well. And then we are actually having another paper and projects concerning about the intervention activities all these developments. So if you like to, I can have another sections on this, what we call the active 1 to 3 development, or living emotion 1 to 3 developments, so that you will have understand about how we incorporate an holistic concept in order to help the student understand themselves, but at the same time we help the school to develop the learning culture of physical activities. So these two things are what we are now doing within this project works. Yeah.
Thank you so much, because I think the many who are willing to join for yours and definitely will help you in reaching out to the masses in terms of the questionnaire. May I now request Tushar Kandakar, sir, for your remarks, please. Tushar, sir. Please unmute.
Thanks for inviting me, first of all, and I really enjoyed so far whatever Walter has said about the culture and timing about the schools and all that. That's very important actually. In India, I'll talk about India because I belong to India, so I'll talk about that. I won't talk about other cultures. In India, it's difficult, to maintain the timing about the kids' education as well as the sporting, culture is not there. It is there. It's not like it is there, but to manage that and to maintain that, it's very difficult. So it has to be really planned and properly scheduled. Then only we can ask kids especially to come and play some sport. So it's very rightly said. The timing is very important. Although in India we get more time actually, but abroad you don't get that much time to train. But still we need to organize really well the timing which we can use, and then slowly we can process. So it's timing is the main key in any sports or any physical activity. Timing is the key.
I know, yes.
Thank you, Tushar. But I'd like to ask you another question is, what's the message that you give to we have also sports people in this, just that because you had read the Olympic stage, you have seen what the challenges are. So what is the message that you'd like to put across to our
as I said, for me, process is very important. And be in any sport, be in any field, it doesn't matter. Like if you are in a sport field or if you are in academic field, process, you should believe in your process, and it takes some time. You cannot get the result in a 1 day or 2 days. It will take years to get the result. Once that process will be followed by each and everybody in the right way and in the right direction, you'll get the results. To play Olympics, I can say athlete. It requires minimum 5 to 6 years, minimum 5 to 6 years. Once he or she, whoever it is, trained on that level with the proper technique, with the proper guidance, then only he or she can achieve in something in the Olympics, or can participate at the higher level. So that process is very important. You should believe in the process, and then you should move forward.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you, Tushar. Nice hearing you. Indeed, happy to have that hockey. When you talk of India, there's been so much, and when you talk of Dhyan Chand, I think it's hockey which comes in the picture.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Tushar, because your presence has brought in a lot of weightage here. Darling, for your remarks, please. Darling,
Well, I have to say that each time I hear Dr. Ho, I always learn something new or a different way of looking at the issue. And so, Walter, thank you so much for allowing me to learn the perspective of what you are now attempting to do.
Thank you for that.
This is terribly difficult work, most of the time, because perceptions are hard to measure, and so it's a challenge. My question to you is, are you able to determine things that will happen in girls' perceptions or people with disability perceptions? And are you including anything with parents?
I tell you what, when you do the questionnaires, okay, we try to ask them about your professions, where you work from. If you are the teachers, fine, we put you in one group as the teachers. but you can actually indicate that you are coming from what we call other groups. And then we'll take a look or see how many people within this group. And so in this way that we can certainly develop different papers or discussion. But for certain, we are going to separate the group together, the ladies and the men, the gender group, into two groups, so that we can compare about the developments, how people see the physical educations. But I tell you what, in the time that we developed the questionnaires, that's a little bit different because we developed it based on the global voices. And the global voices at that time in 2010 does not touch much on, for example, like the issues on disability, the issues on inclusions, or the issues on gender. And then that's the reasons why when we come out with this statement, there are some restrictions. I understand about this. But of course, I have to base on the facts that I find. If this is the facts that I find, then I should not say no to these factors. But I'm thinking, and I'm quite certain in 2024, then I expect to do a second round of research because I understand there will be some of the things I missed it. But don't forget, when we are working on these statements, at that time, UNESCO has not published the guideline for policy makers. And so there are some time gaps right inside. But of course, I have already promised to Rosa that I'm going to develop at least 1 to 2 papers, try to develop, to compare the different genders on different economical groups and see whether they are inconsistently thinking on the development of quality physical educations. But in fact, after my presentation tonight, yeah, I have already, I will expect to send out a PDF file of my PowerPoint to USA, and also a little paper concerning just about 3 pages only, 4 pages only, and that will give you some summary about the works. So that people, when they want to follow about these issues on global voices, on these studies in QPE, they can actually find enough information. But of course, I said to you that after 1 year, in next year in 2021, when we stop the collections of this data, and then when we have a better comparisons and data from different all around the world, then the whole idea would be different. Then I hope that at that time I will have another chance to share again in this platform, and so that people will understand about how does it look like, and when we are talking about the city ranking.
I'm so glad that you're tackling this. This is truly a global effort, and so good for all of you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you've had things published. That's very, very important.
Thank you, Alan. Pranesh, could you just play the video, please? Pranesh? Pranesh,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So you can see something, Tushar in action.
Yes.
Your audio.
Fire it in and finds Manpik. Manpik's got a cross shot, goal! India in front! And it had been coming! Virendra Lakra, number 26, opens the scoring at almost the midpoint in the first half, and relief washes over the National Stadium. And it's saying, it's a goal of India at 2 in front, and celebration time in the National Stadium, just over the halfway point of the first half, and it's India 2, France 0. Beautifully taken, and the keeper went to ground. Chenestay, lovely ball. This is Jean-Jean. Jean-Jean has a player in the middle. There's a goal in front, up on back, and it's been scored by Simon Martin Brissac. Jean-Jean with the ball across, and a lovely Sunil and France got themselves back into it. But it's that man again, Sandeep Singh. Sandeep has been excellent so far from the shorts, and he's excellent again. That is an absolute exercise. Just have a look at this. Even in slow motion, this is going to go quickly. India have a chance in the second goal. 5-1, and India surely are on their way to London. It's Sunil with the 5th goal. Sandeep Singh fires it in, another goal for the coal machine. And Durkin's got a glove to it, but it wasn't enough, it was travelling too quickly. A 4th goal for number 4 makes it India 6, France 1. Singh, well, you don't really need to say anything, do you? You knew it was coming. Just pops it in the other corner. And it is going to be Raghunath. Goal! It doesn't matter who takes it. It's the same result. And India are now 8-1 up. And now he celebrates. Now he believes. Sylvester trying to make tracks to come back. Could this be a crowning goal in the final couple of seconds? Sunil, can he find the pass across? No, he can't. And that will be the end of the match. And there is the final hooter. It's all over. And it's celebration time for India.
Tushar took us to the stadium. We were sitting and witnessing the match. It was nice seeing you. I think we all got excited trying to motivate you. It was wonderful
Wonderful.
having Tushar with us. It's so nice.
Thank you.
Thank
May
you,
I
Frederick.
request Rosa, for your remarks, please. Rosa.
After so much excitement, wow, it was fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So I have a question to Tushar and also another one to Walter Hall. So I will just first to Tushar, okay? How important was physical education for you when you were in primary school and in secondary school? Please.
Very good question, Rosa. First of all, when you are kids and you are in primary section, hardly you get
Can't hear you.
enjoy the game. You love because you love the game, so you enjoy the game, whichever game it is, whichever sport it is. Yeah, but when you go to secondary schools, and then you get to know how you have to train and how you should train and what you should eat and when you should eat, and that sort of things you get to know. Because if you can't follow that, then it will be very difficult to follow your path and reach at certain level. So yeah, in primary, I'll be very honest, I didn't get that much knowledge. Yeah, but I enjoyed the game, and because of that enjoyment, I able to maintain and played for so many years for the country. Yeah, but if you talk about the knowledge, I got the knowledge in secondary schools when I graduated. That time I had enough knowledge how to pursue my game and what kind of importance the physical activity and physical education it takes.
Okay, thank you very much. So you will champion to have more physical education classes, more time for physical education in primary school and secondary school in India. Will you help on that?
Yeah, now I know, so I help to the young kids. But I'll be very honest, again, I'll go back to the same thing. First of all, the kids should love the game. If they won't love the game, if they don't enjoy, they won't come to you and they won't play sport. Then they don't care about the physical education and physical activity. They, first of all, it's more important them to learn the game and enjoy the game. Once they'll start scoring goals and they start celebrating, start enjoying the moment, then only they'll come up, and then they can play and they can get the physical education knowledge. It makes sense?
Yes, of course. And it connects with my question to Walter. Thank you very much, Tushar. So Walter, in all the in the research, we always find a common element, no matter what continent we're speaking about. And it is related to how do we train teachers, okay? Because actually what Tushar was saying, I mean, how much you enjoy the class. I mean, if we have qualified physical education teachers. So what can you refer toward the experience we have had already with all the research in all continents? Because I find this is a common element in all over. It's the most globalized phenomenon in the research.
Okay, well, concerning about the teacher training, what we call the personnel professional training, is actually come to a different story. We have to understand this. These are the people who are going to work what we call the frontline positions in facing in the field of physical education. They are different with the policymakers. They are the people who meet the students. They are the people who work physical education and physical activities out. So that's different. So if this is the case, then we have to identify one thing. What do we want to develop for these young children? So if we are talking about the development of these young children, we do have a few things. For example, like their habit in sport, their understanding, their proficiency. And then you need to give them a sense of loving to the sport activities. Now, if you take a look at these few things are essential matters, then that will be easy for you to construct a meaningful professional teaching program for the teachers. And teachers need to have the sense or the skills to make the lesson fun, to make the students be able to capture the elements for their cognitive developments, to be able to develop their literacy in the field of sports and physical activities. So these are the basic things. And then beside this, we need to help the teachers to equip essential knowledge to face the latest challenge. For example, like health developments and habit developments. So these are the two different things. So if we are going to talk about health development, then of course, these teachers need to have a very clear perspective on the use of exercise psychology. If there is no such kind of training, there will be no way for them to develop. So this is the part that we need to help our physical education to have the knowledge in teaching or tackling the work on physical education. But at the same time, we need to give them another understanding, for example, like on the common knowledge in what we call the educational psychology, educational measurement, assessments, and these are another essential methods in order to help the teacher to become mature in the field of education. Please remember one thing, we do always have a wrong focus, because in the school, we thought that the physical educations are coaches. They are not. They are the people who help the teachers to get the essential development in sport and physical activity so that they can have a sustainable life development after schools. So these are two different things. So if you think of these major missions, they will be completely different for teachers training program. But of course, we understand for those people who work in the school as a physical education teacher, they have another missions, because most of them after school, they will develop as the trainers. And that is what USS is doing now, that they need to become a professional coaches in some area so that the student will get other chance to develop their talent. And so if you put them all together, then you probably understand what will be the essential things for the teacher training program, and then prepare them for the field of physical education. And for us, in this research work, we understand there will be some of the dimensions that seems to be important. For example, the 8 dimensions. And these would be something that we need to help the teachers to understand, because when they are going to go outside, and these are also the 8 factor or 8 dimensions that they're going to face they are not facing the policy from UNESCO. They are facing the policy of their country. But how they're going to tackle these things? I tell you what we understand is this 8 dimension will be something that they need to know so that they can be able to tackle the situation properly when they are dealing with the teaching in class.
Thank you. Thank you. Marlon, for your remarks, please. Yep. You need to unmute. Unmute.
The mic, the microphone.
Thank you. Okay, now, yes. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for sharing the video. I love it. I enjoyed a lot. Thank you very much. And Walter, I think we know by email. I'm Marilyn from Spain, and nice to meet you.
Thank you for that.
Now, and I enjoyed a lot your presentation, your amazing presentation. I think that is a great. I knew the project, and I think that is great, and all the phases are great. And thank you for summarize all the projects.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and I have a question is similar to the last question that was asked, but it's like more practical. It's like as a teacher, teachers, physical education teachers, what can they do to get a quality physical education at the school, in class, is in our environment? What is the? I think that is very big, the answer. But if you have to choose one dimension for your experience or for your results, what is the most important that we can involve in a quality physical education?
If you ask me about one thing, then I can tell that these teachers need to know how to use the game properly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because you need to know the way in order to direct the student to think and develop their character and talent.
Yes.
Physical activities or sport is just a vehicle only. This is not all. And then if you do not know how you're going to help the student to develop through the games and develop their interest in sport, you fail. So this is actually the first thing that we need to know. For me, if you ask me, what is the important things? I tell you what, the teaching games for understanding from Bunker and Ford, the games approach that used in Singapore, the play approach used in USA, or the game sense approach used in Australia. These are some of the essential method that we need to let our teachers know, so that they will be able to get and help the students to be actively thinking persons. So I tell you what, in the past, we put too much on the skill developments. I tell you what, this is essential. When the students are getting away from the physical education lessons, they go to the team. They go to the sport team or whatever things. They need different training, and that is completely different with the classroom. But if you ask me what would be the most important things for the teacher, I tell you what, according to my experiences, most of the teachers fail because they have no idea how going to help the student to become active thinkers to their life, to their talents, and even to the physical activities. This is something that we need to focus on.
Okay.
So yeah, I hope that they will give you some idea about what my thinking on this. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree. Thank you.
Yeah, nice seeing you, Marlon. Beatrice, your turn now. Beatrice, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Beatrix.
Hello, Walter. It's very good to see your presentation. Hello. And I know about your research, but to see all the data, congratulations. I think it's amazing what you are doing. And I think what you are telling us is so good, and regarding, because so complex, the quality of physical education is very complex and has different dimensions, and if you see the skills, facilities, plans, social norms, government, everything is in the same area of what you can think about the quality of physical education. And but looking at the results of your data, And do you see any direction that you are going? Because you have data from first world, third world, all these different continents. Do you see any direction that, we are going? And do you think that your data, the results, can influence the new directions that we can give, putting more emphasis on teaching, or you said, or government, or UNESCO? When you think UNESCO, like physical education teachers are so far away from UNESCO, what direction you think that you should give with your data?
Okay, now we need to understand one thing. The process for development qualifications, something like the policy, is one thing.
Yeah.
But how we're going to bring this message to the teachers so that the teachers can know what to do in the classroom, this is second things. So within this, there must be something needed in order to bring the two things together. All right. And then I find that some of the countries are doing better in this kind of delivery of message. But I tell you that it does not mean that they have a very good components in the development or policy development in physical education. This is something different. Okay. So that's the reasons why you can see. I tell you what, there's some logic. But I don't know whether these logics are correct or not. If you put the policy development in a very complex way, and then you do not have a proper strategies, you get a very poor development in quality physical education. If you have a simple curriculum or easy to understand policy, and then you mix with a easy or effective strategy to manage the development or to inform the teachers, you got a better chance to develop the quality physical education. So I understand, and then most of the work done by UNESCO, they are focusing on the policy. This is important. This is very important, but they actually need to know another round. Okay, for example, like if you put too much policy, it will be too complicated. It will be too complicated. It takes a lot of time in order to change. So this is actually the things that when I discussed the matter with the professor from Japan. So he is Professor Suzuki. He has to collect the data from Tokyo and Hiroshima. His comment is, Japan is too complicated, too complicated. And then you have to bring the message to the school, but the school itself may not necessarily to change it properly, because there is a very strong practice in the school, and so that's the reasons why you will find the gap, and that's the reasons why when you take a look at the ranking, they get a very low ranking in the almost in the bottom for the development of quality physical education. So it does not mean that that they do not have a good policy, but they lack of a proper development strategies to make the things move from the top to the bottom. So that is the problem. UNESCO has done one of the part, but how are you going to bring this policy effectively from this part to the second part? This is the questions, and that's the reasons why we decided to do a research work on these gaps of understanding. We're trying to learn from the gaps and see what are the deficiencies that happen in blocking us to bring our understanding of these things. Now, it does not mean that we have a very good developments on the curriculum. This is another story. But if you do not have a good management strategies, you fail to do this part, there'll be no way, even though how good you are on this part, there'll be no way for you to develop the quality physical education in schools. And that's the problem. But I understand one thing. When we are dealing with this problem, we cannot just go to one single dimensions. It needs to cover. And that's the reasons why we need to do another paper trying to find out what are the essential dimensions from, for example, like from the 65 items. And then from this work, then we single out 48 items. And then these 48 items comes from these 8 dimensions. And then when we are talking about these 8 dimensions, it needs to be in a holistic sense. If you put it aside in one of the way, there will be no way for you to develop a proper physical education program. This is actually the problem of most of the country right now. We understand, we take a look at the factors. Some of the places do very well on these dimensions, but not very well on that one. That causes the troubles. And so, so this is the reasons why we want to go for what we call a country analysis within this period from June to November to see what are the strategies that needed to develop to bring them together. And then we also would like to pick out a few factors and to see how these factors influence the holistic developments of physical education. Well, this will be hard. I don't think that I can do it by myself. That's why we need to work as a team. And then you can see when I'm talking about this paper, you get a lot of names there because this is not certainly cannot be done by myself. It has to become in a team that we have the better understanding about different places before we know. But of course, when we do for the country analysis, you understand one thing, we cannot go for 1 cities. You have to go for 2 cities or 3 cities so they can make comparable result on all these things. And unless these cities has a large number of return, for example, we have 1 city from Mexico. The cities actually have 500 questionnaires returned. Now that is different case. That is different case. But for most of the place, we cannot. Most of the places, it actually supplies us with about 60 to 80 or 90 questionnaires only. But if they go for different cities, then they will be able to come with reasonable understanding about what's happening in the country. So this is actually the strategy that we are now doing. We hope after we finish the data collections in November this year, then we will pick out the cities, okay, or pick out the countries to do in-depth analysis. And that is the part that we try to understand about the gap. How we're going to do this policy and how we're going to do this and what are the gaps that in between. So that in this case, we hope in this way there will be a big effective development of quality physical education. This is actually the things that I hope that I can have chance to discuss with UNESCO. If that will be possible, I'll be fine if the COVID-19 is eased, they'll be able to have free travel. I would be love to have a chance to meet the professional people or officers in UNESCO and try to share about our findings so that they will understand about the different strategies that happen in the places. And then that will be come with effective development for quality physical education. If that is not the case, there'll be no way in order to make, otherwise, this will just become a paper. You never touch the ground. You have to bring the gap, level the gap. And how you're going to level the gap, that's another science. That will be difficult to answer. And I hope that we can work these things out from this time now work until 2025.
Thank
and
you,
I can,
Doctor.
yeah.
Thanks, Breeders. Dr. J. Kishore, our principal, sir, for your remarks, please.
A wonderful session by both the renowned resource persons, Walter and Mr. Tushar. In fact, it's just 2 sides of the coin, but it's physical education which leads with the broad basing, and Mr. Tushar about the excellence part when we were the qualifying. It was wonderful, spectacular performance, and we are very happy to see this Indian team in action and Tushar playing a leading role. Excellent. Place and record appreciation to both the resource person for doing the just and for the both part of the presentations. About I have to like it is not questions. I would like to get some remarks from both on first about Mr. Tushar about any chance further ahead for us after 1980 Moscow. And what does he feel the rates present tenure at Bangalore they are not able to do, but can we any road ahead from would like to hear from Mr. Tushar, then I'll come back to Mr. Walter.
You meant to say about the Olympics?
Yeah, yeah. Olympics and the
Yeah.
person, Indian hockey. You see now Bangalore, they are under Graham Reed now, the new coach. So there is a lot of expectations. What is your remarks on present condition?
Yeah, at this moment, the kind of hockey they are playing, the performance which they are giving, I'm very much confident about their performances in upcoming Tokyo Olympics. Hopefully, it will take place in 2021. And the way they have played in 2019 and before that, so I'm quite confident they'll perform well. And if they'll perform as per their potential, so we have got a chance to finish in top 3. So this is what I think about the performances so far.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That is very encouraging remarks. We are very hopeful that in the next we can foresee something good happening. Now to Mr. Walter, I think it was wonderful presentation. In fact, you have touched the actual gaps, which is very with evidence and proof on with all sort of data and also into the all other related parts. So we'd like to know if you can have some specifics about Asia, especially India and China. How do you foresee these gaps, and are we in the right direction? Such the programs at present, these gaps are evident, but how do you see the in the roadmap for PE, our developmental in physical education programs in Asian continents, in Asia?
Okay. Well, I tell you what, my interest is not just in quality physical educations. In fact, my interest is also on the minority groups. You to take a look on my profile, you log in my profile, then you understand there are a number of papers actually developed in India. Okay. And you can find that there is a paper developed on the sexual harassment, and the data actually from India.
Oh, that's great.
And then I also have a few papers that I work with one of my colleagues called Dushat Ahmad. He's from Assam. We decided to choose the place to develop a few papers because we want to learn what would be happen for those ladies in this minority in these places, especially they are not having a good support on physical activities. And so if you take a look at a number of research work that we have done in this area, and also in harassment, I understand there will be a number of problems in India. This is a fact that we do not need to cover. This is actually the fact. Physical education need to give them a chance to develop in the school. This is one thing. And although I understand there are policy in India that physical education is a compulsory subject, but this rules is not followed in some of the schools. This is true. So we need to change this idea. This is definitely needed in India. And then the second thing is, I understand in some places we need stronger support for those, for example, like the ladies in exercise, to encourage the lady to go for exercise. They need support. Family support, social support, and community support seem to be a very essential things. But of course, to take a look at the complex developments of India, it might not be easy to solve all these things at once. It needs to take time. But it needs what we call the strategic developments. How to bring up these strategic development, that will be another interesting things. I have one of the colleagues actually who helped me to develop the quality of physical education in India. She is called Akika, and we are trying to develop and establish different research activities with her so that we can identify about the developmental process in India. For definitely, I'm very interested to have one paper or two papers in India to talk about the strategies of developments. And I hope that this paper will give some light about the physical education developments in your country, or at least some of the way to enhance the understanding for quality improvement of sport in schools. So this is the things that I hope that I can do. China is another place that is definitely in need of improvement. That's the reasons why in our first round of research, we actually collected the data from 7 cities in different corners of China. It's interesting that they are all consistent. The result is very consistent. But we are now working on two projects, independent projects, one in Sichuan and the other in Guangzhou, because these are the places where they have meeting with different development. For example, like in Guangdong provinces, you have the fast developments, you have the slow development. Then what were the differences between these cities? And then in Sichuan, we want to do an independent paper because we need to know about how the minority groups are being integrated into the mainstreams of these educations. So these are the things that we are now working out. And then I hope that, that's why I said to you, maybe 1 year later, when we have all this data coming out from this research, there will be a different pictures. I hope that I can still use this platform and share about this idea. And at this moment, of course, I cannot share too much about these things. All right. Okay.
So which is the best Asian model or the world model you appreciate, or when you look into the actual gap and development, which is the best model you advocate or you are?
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, you mean how we are going to educate? So you mean how we're going to educate? No, sorry.
No. Which is the best model? Model when you look into the gaps of actual development in physical education. So which are the best models in the Asian, or maybe you can even from the world, which you find that they are doing the right and trying to fill up the gaps and coming up in physical education program?
All right. Okay. Now I'm not trying to honor any countries because some of the countries are actually doing different things. Okay, but I can see some of the place in our research work, they are doing very well. Okay, and I tell what China is doing very well on this what we call the implementation, strategy implementations, trying to bring the message from the top to the teachers. They're doing very well. They're doing very well on that. And then, but if you take a look of like Philippines, they are also doing very well in the southern part. Probably because it related to the small community itself, and also related to the recent development by the Philippines government. So I cannot tell. Really, this would be very hard to say which city are doing very well on that. But certainly, for those cities who are ranking on the high, I can so sure they are doing very well on the implementation strategies. This is true. And this is actually interesting that you can find one of the cities in Mexico do very, very well. Most of the cities in China doing very well. Taiwan region is doing very well. Macau is not. Okay, Hong Kong is not. And Tokyo, Hiroshima is not. Okay, Seoul is not. Bangkok is not. Okay, and Bratislava in Slovakia is not, and Abidjan in Nigeria is not. Crete, Athens is not. So it seems that it related to how we're going to develop the strategy from the top to the bottoms. And then this is actually quite amazing us. We actually, at the very beginning, we thought those countries were very rich, would be doing better, but turns out this is not. And then we have tried to discuss this matter with some of the people, probably because they have a very complicated the curriculum development policy. And this might be one of the things that related to the development. And the second thing is these teachers are quite independent. They are putting too much on the understanding on the subjects area. And that's why they don't see this as important. So when we ask about the questions on quality physical education, they come with a very low ranking. I have no idea whether this will become a true fact or not, but that will be a very interesting topic that we discuss. And actually we are going to discuss these things in our coming papers, in the first 2 papers. And so this is hard, but we are trying to work it out, and so that will bring a different story about what we need to do to bring better development for peace education.
Thank you so much. It was very informative.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Kishore sir. I'd like to thank Walter. It was a wonderful session because we all talk of NAS space standards, but I think things are changing. And we're indeed fortunate to have a person who's going to come and tell us what's going to be the right thing. You're going to fill the gap. And so on behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Khelo India, Lakshmi by National College of Physical Education, I always say you can see a horse, a queen, she's the Rani of Jhansi, the princess.
Yes,
That's
yes.
how our college is named after. So thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. And it's something which is, I think, as you said, we are sowing a seed, but as you said, it may take 2 to 3 years to come in, and you're going to identify those components, which I think, I'm sure that you would be able to identify and we start implementing it. So as you said,
Thank
we
you.
have policies, but the most important is, are the policies bringing it down? That's a very important thing. So thank you so much for this wonderful session, informative session. And there are many who are willing to join for this research, but definitely I can assure you, Dr. Kishore sir is here. He'll see to it that this particular questionnaire is filled in across and it will be done. So that's something which we really look forward to. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It was better late than never. I need to thank Rosa for giving us platform so that we could get introduced to you. So thank you so much, Walter.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Tushar, the great Olympian. Hats off to you. It was nice seeing you. You charged us. You gave us so much of energy. I think you're all the way on the ground cheering you up. So thank you so much, Tushar. It was so wonderful having you with us. And as Joseph rightly pointed out, it's a merge of broad basing and excellence. And it is wonderful. You're an excellent role model. And I'm sure that your message would be taken over. Thank you so much. And a salute.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I'd like to thank Rosa. Rosa, I know you brought in Walter. And I said it's better late than never. Thank you so much for introducing us to the world and making this a global event. Thank you, Rosa. I need to thank Luca. It's always I say this, the light coming in. Always when you're not seen around, I find it getting dark. But now there is enough of light, and this light is there in our program too. Thank you so much, Luca, for gracing this occasion, being part of this. I'd like to thank Merlin. I know we heard so much of Spain. I'm just waiting when to come in. You have a wonderful program, and we are eagerly waiting to get you so that we can have the same too. Thank you. Thank you, Beatrice, a great anthropologist coming in, and every time you come out with such direction questions, I always find you have a very inquisitive mind and questions. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Kishore sir. So thank you so much for supporting this particular event, making it a global one. As I always say, we have a pillar and the head is so strong. And I'm sure with his presence, this particular platform is going to still become bigger. Thank you, Kishore sir. I'd like to thank Sanjay, Dr. Sanjay. You are the one who introduced, got the video done. I think we need to give a good hand for Dr. Sanjay for making this video, getting an energy in the group. And I also need to thank Dr. Pradeep for having introduced Tushar. Tushar, you're here because of these two. Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjay. I'd like to thank all the participants over here who are there, because it's you who finally make up this program. In the end, thank you one and all. Namaste.
Thank you for that. See you then. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.